Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube is hopeful that the proposal by the United States to drop sanctions and advance arrears clearance will, for the first time in decades, open access to affordable international credit for both government and the private sector. ZDERA has long registered Zimbabwe from tapping in. ZDERA has long restricted Zimbabwe from tapping into concessional loans from institutions such as the World Bank and IMF, leaving the country to rely on expensive borrowing and limited external support. Minister Mthuli says accessing soft lending is crucial to revive industries, both infrastructure development and lower the cost of capital for local businesses.
There is almost a reset in terms of relationship with Africa. And it means that then we have to seize the opportunity and make sure that we can position ourselves accordingly and benefit. We have a lot to offer to foreign investors in general, so they too then can feel free to join others in trying to access those opportunities. You can imagine the banks that had issued or advisory advisories against Zimbabwe in terms of giving us credit lines. Once you set aside ZDERA, that will change, especially if we start then dealing with the arrears. Then both ZDERA and arrears are off the table. So you see the banks actually access credit lines a lot easier. The government itself will be able to access credit lines and borrow cheaper concessional finance. Everything will change. Practically everything will change. So we all fingers crossed if it goes through Senate.
While the bill is set to undergo several stages and debate before being finally passed into law, political analyst Dr. Mataruse believes the move by Washington represents significant wins for Zimbabwe, but with a heavy cost, however.
One, Zimbabwe has not been receiving significant support from the US, from the IMF and the World Bank, because the US did not allow that. But now they're saying, we are going to repeal this. You know, there are no strings attached in our repealing of this. But if you are going to be receiving funding from the IMF and the World Bank and perhaps even other, Paris Club members, funders as well, the US will only offer its support for such funding on the condition that we settle all the arrears within 12 months. We settle all the arrears within 12 months of such funding being availed. So we will only get the money once we are able to do that. And if you look at our GDP from last year, it was about 44 billion. But still, it's a significant improvement. It's a country that's recovering. But our capacity to really settle that amount without triggering, economic mayhem.